Well, good evening, everyone. I always like to start my comments by starting out with just saying how thankful I am. How thankful I am to have a huge crowd like this here tonight with us. How thankful I am to have some incredible members of the Illinois General Assembly with us tonight. And so it's just being thankful. In fact, we all have so much to be thankful for. So I really appreciate that. We are going to kicking off here pretty much on time. Our plan is to conclude at 7:30. We will begin a Q&A at roughly 7 p.m. Hopefully everyone gets through their talking points that we have. So it's about 7 a.m. We will start the Q&A. And one thing I would like to say is we really appreciate everyone that's been filing witness slips throughout this whole process, especially in lame duck, and as we move into the spring session. And I think you see the power of that. And I'm going to give you one example, is the sex ed bill that passed the House and the Senate last year, which was Senate Bill 818, that was going to require schools to teach sex education, which many of us, curriculum that many of us here, all of us here tonight, did not, on stage, did not agree with. And what that did was but the options were that a school district could opt out of teaching the curriculum. And if a school district opted in of teaching the curriculum, the parents could opt their student out from being in the class. So this was coming back up to the General Assembly, this lame duck. But fortunately, it died. It died. It did not come through in the House and did not come in the Senate. And one reason why I want to explain this is that it was changed to House Bill 5188. But if you look up House Bill 5188, you'll see that it was a bipartisan roll call. But that was not this legislation. It was actually what we call a gut and replace. So they took 5188 and converted it in. They gutted it and turned it into the sex ed bill. So I just wanted to make sure that's clear. And one reason why this was not able to pass in the House and the Senate was because of a lot of the written slips that you all submitted to the General Assembly. And if you don't know how to submit a witness slip, there's flyers out front, or you can contact us at any time. So just wanted to mention that. So this bill did not come up in lame duck. Our interpretation was it did not have enough votes, which was a good thing to bring it up to vote in the House or in the Senate. We don't know if it will be refiled for the 103rd General Assembly, which we are now in, but we will be continually watching that really closely. But please, because that when a bill comes to a committee, the committee chair is responsible for identifying the number of witness slips, proponents or opponents that have been submitted. So that's really powerful. That's one way that you all can be involved in the legislative process. So having said that, I would like to, again, welcome you all, and I would like to introduce our other members of the General Assembly that are with us here this evening. State Senator Terry Bryant from the 58th District. State Representative Dave Severin from District 116. State Representative Patrick Windhorst from District 117. State Representative David Freese from District 115. State Representative Paul Jacobs from District 118. And State Representative Charlie Meyer from District 109. Thank you so much. And at this time, I'm going to hand it off to my good friend, Representative David Severin, for the invocation.
Thank you, Senator. Could I ask all you to rise, please? We're going to pray, and then we'll have the pledge will be led this evening by Representative Jacobs. Let's pray. Lord, I thank you for this evening. I thank you that you're here and answer our prayers. I thank you that you love us. I thank you for the state of Illinois and this United States that we live in. I thank you for freedom this night, Lord. I thank you that you love us and you care about us. You know who we are. I pray if there's anybody in this room this evening that is hurting, that needs a touch from you, I pray that you would touch them this night. I pray that you would encourage them, whether it be mental, physical, financial, what it might be. I ask, Lord, that you would touch them and just encourage us this evening to know that you're in control, you're on the throne, you have our best in your heart, in our minds. And I thank you for that this evening. In your name, amen. Representative Jacobs, please.
We're going to pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
In addition to welcoming each of you here tonight, we'd like you to know who the elected officials are who are present, other than those who are up on the stage. And so I would like to introduce those who are here tonight from Williamson County. And this is in no particular order, but the order that they're on my list. So Circuit Clerk Justin Mays. County Clerk Amanda Barnes. Commissioners Jim Marlowe, Tim Atchison, and Jim Razor. Sheriff Jeff Dietrich. And State's Attorney Ted Hampson. And Marion's own Mayor Mike Absher. We thank all of you for allowing us to have this tonight in Marion and here in Williamson County. There are other elected officials here tonight, and we want to acknowledge you as well. So if you are an elected official from somewhere other than Williamson County, please stand so we can recognize you tonight. Any level. Thank you all for being here tonight, and we do appreciate all that you do to serve us as well, whichever county it happens to be. And so now we're going to start the other thing I want to ask you to do is you were probably given some cards tonight as you came in. If you have a question that you would like to ask during the question and answer time, we would ask you to hold that card up. We have staff that are walking around through the crowd today. We have a young lady over here. We got Marcus, I can't see. I think it's Marcus over here. So just raise those cards up and we will have them pick up the cards, and we'll do as many questions as we can tonight, starting at 7 o'clock. And while you do that, I'd like to turn this over right now to Representative Patrick Windhorst to begin our slide presentation.
Thank you, Senator Bryant. We're going to start this evening talking about House Bill 5471, which is now Public Act 102-1116, also known as a firearms ban. Because of time, I'm going to work through these fairly quickly. Of course, we'll have time for questions at the end, but we're going to hit some of the high points this evening. The purpose of this slide is to show how quickly things can move in Springfield with the Democratic supermajority. On December 1st of last year, House Bill 5855 was filed in the Illinois House. Many of us remember that when it was filed, and many witness slips were filed in opposition to that bill. 3 subject matter hearings were held in December in Chicago. Those subject matter hearings heard from crime victims, community groups, and advocates both for and against the legislation. On January 4th, the General Assembly went back into session for the 102nd General Assembly's lame duck session. A lame duck session means that is the legislators who are serving, some of whom are retiring, some had been defeated in the election, some have moved on to other positions, but they were still in the General Assembly and voting on this legislation. On January 5th, the second day of the lame duck session, House Bill 5855 became Senate Bill 2226. Senate Bill 2226 is the amended firearm ban with amended language. Much of the language in that bill became law in House Bill 5471, but there are a couple important differences. In Senate Bill 2226, there was a magazine ban of 12 rounds or more, and there was no grandfathering in of currently possessed magazines. On January 6th, that Senate bill passed the Illinois House with a vote of 64 to 43. 60 votes are needed to pass any legislation after the first of the year. And it went to the Illinois Senate. That bill was not voted on in the Illinois Senate. Instead, an agreement was reached between the Senate President, the House Speaker, and the Governor, and that language was found in House Bill 5471, which passed the Senate on January 9th with a vote of 34 to 20, and on January 10th, passed the Illinois House and was signed by the governor that very day. The total time lapse between the introduction of 5855 and the passage of the bill 5471 and its signing was 41 days. Every legislator on this podium voted against House Bill 5471. The proponents of this legislation gave their main reason for supporting the bill was to reduce gun violence, particularly in the city of Chicago. But we know that those who commit violent crime are not going to abide by this law. We as legislators have a duty, a sworn duty, to uphold and protect the Constitution, including the Second Amendment, and each of us fulfilled that obligation. Now we're going to hit some of the key elements of House Bill 5471. This bill bans the sale, manufacture, or transfer of certain semi-automatic rifles, semi-automatic pistols, and semi-automatic shotguns that contain certain equipment, such as pistol grips on semi-automatic rifles, folding or telescoping stocks, as well as 50 caliber rifles and 50 caliber cartridges are banned. Long guns have a limit of a 10-round magazine, and handguns have a limit of a 15-round magazine. The bill ends the sale of high-capacity ammunition magazines, and also bans switches. However, it does allow for the grandfathering of those that are currently possessed at the time the bill was signed. It extends the timeline of a firearm restraining order from a maximum of 6 months to 1 year, and then it could be renewed every year after that. These firearm restraining orders, or FROs as they're called, are essentially orders of protection that can be obtained by law enforcement or an individual's family member by going to court. And then ultimately there would be a hearing with the person present where they could defend themselves against that order. It requires those who possess semi-automatic weapons that are covered by the bill to register their firearm serial numbers with the state police. It codifies the Illinois State Police's internet-based system for reporting stolen firearms. This system had previously been an administrative rule. This is now in legislation and has the force of law. It also requires certain gun transfers taking place after July 1st of this year to be filed with a federally licensed firearms dealer, and extends the record-keeping time for firearms dealers from 10 to 20 years. Persons receiving a firearm must file a record of transfer with the FFL, and there is a fee that's capped at $25. So those are the key elements that we're going to hit, and I would like to now introduce my friend and colleague, Representative David Freese of the 115th District, who will talk about some of the questions that are frequently asked.
Thank you, Patrick. As you can imagine, as soon as these bills were introduced, and specifically when it was passed, our offices were flooded with questions. Myself, we couldn't go to the store without getting peppered. So these are some of them that we frequently run into. When does the ban take effect? Do I have time to purchase one of these firearms? The firearms ban immediately bans the manufacture, delivery, sale, importation, or purchase of assault weapons attachments, 50 caliber rifles, or 50 caliber cartridges. And everybody knows, the definition of an assault weapon is obviously very elusive and hard to define, but This is what we have to deal with in Springfield. Also, it immediately bans manufacture, delivery, sale, or purchase of magazines capable of holding more than 10 rounds for long guns and 15 rounds for handguns. The ban is now in effect as of the purchase of guns or magazines, as it was signed by the governor on the final day of the lame duck session that was on January 10th this year. If you currently own a gun that is now banned, what does this law say that you must do? Beginning January 1, 2024, it is unlawful for someone to knowingly possess an assault weapon attachment, 50 caliber rifle, or 50 caliber cartridge unless a person registers each weapon's make, model, caliber, and serial number with the Illinois State Police on a form they will provide. Also, starting on January 1st, 2024, someone who has registered their weapon can transfer the weapon only to an heir, an individual residing in another state, maintaining it in another state, or a dealer licensed as a federal firearms dealer under Section 923 of the Federal Gun Control Act of 1968. Okay. All right. What happens if I don't register my firearm prior to the deadline? I'm sure that's one that that's probably the most asked question. Okay, if you get caught in possession of an unregistered assault weapon or 50 caliber rifle after the deadline, it is a Class A misdemeanor. Prior versions of the bill made it a Class 3 felony. And Patrick is was prior state's attorney. I talked to him. So a Class A misdemeanor, that's 364 days in jail and up to a $2,500 fine. And their second charge of possession, that's was a Class 3 felony. So that's what we're going to have to deal with going forward. Okay. All right. There are exemptions. So who is exempt from the law? If I meet the exemption requirements, does that mean I can still purchase these firearms in Illinois? Peace officers, qualified law enforcement officers, and qualified retired law enforcement officers. Federal, state, or local law enforcement agencies for the purpose of equipping the agency's peace officers, wardens, superintendents, and keepers of prisons, penitentiaries, jails, and other criminal detention institutions. Active duty or traveling to or from active duty members of the armed services, reserve forces of the United States, or the Illinois National Guard. Any company that employs armed security officers in Illinois at a nuclear energy, storage, weapons, or development site or facility regulated by the Federal Nuclear Regulatory Commission, and any person employed as an armed security force member at these installations while performing official duties. Licensed private security firms, contractors, and private security officers while performing official duties. Okay. And the last one, obviously, is this constitutional? All right. We have a couple guests here tonight that are going to speak on that. Kelvin Curtis of the NRA and Richard Pearson of the Illinois State Rifles Association. Okay. All right, and Kelvin? Come on up. Yep. Yeah, so while they're coming up, I noticed a gentleman, usually I don't single people out, but a gentleman, it was straight back from where I'm sitting. I choose freedom. Love that shirt, buddy. That's why we're here.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Kelvin Curtis. I'm with the National Rifle Association, Institute for Legislative Action. Thank you. I'm your grassroots field coordinator. Primarily, I'm focusing on communities here in Illinois. I go around educating and motivating people like yourself to stand up and fight for our Second Amendment rights. And let me let you know right now, the fight is not over. It's not. Faith and hope, keep that in every form. because America was built on fighters, and guess what? It's time for us to fight. And this time, we're going to fight in the legal system where we will win.
Friends of the Second Amendment, I'm glad to see you here tonight. I would tell you that our attorneys have been going through this bill since it was signed. We actually started 3 weeks before this bill came around with some of the previous bills and started looking at all the parts of it, looking at the various pieces that we thought were unconstitutional, which is most of it. And I will tell you tonight, the filing of the lawsuit by the Illinois State Rifle Association, Second Amendment Foundation, and Firearms Policy Coalition is imminent. You will see it by morning. I will tell you also that we are prepared to take this all the way to the Supreme Court of the United States. We will not give up. We will continue to fight every way possible. For those who don't know, we have Illinois Gun Owner Lobby Day on the 29th of March, a Wednesday. And if you can possibly make it, we're going to make our presence known in Springfield. So thank you.
And regarding that, your National Rifle Association will be filing a lawsuit as well with the the National Shooting Sports Foundation. So we'll be filing that lawsuit this week as well, to know that it is strongly unconstitutional, that goes against your state constitution as well. So for the most part, I have your state constitutional provision, section 22, article 1 of the Illinois Bill of Rights, subject only to police power. The right of an individual citizen to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. Your rights, our rights were infringed from the U.S. Constitution and the Illinois State Constitution. There's legal precedents that we have from the NRA. We got past cases dealing with New Jersey and California. 10-round magazine bans in every form. We took that up. We petitioned the Supreme Court last year, and they remanded it back to the state courts due to the fact that they made a legal, pretty much one of the most legal, pretty much history cases in history, New York Rifle Pistol Association versus Bruin. That case alone kills any anti-gun legislation that's on the books right now. The only time regarding is court system. It takes time. But by the end of this week, you're going to have multiple pro-gun organizations filing lawsuits for you guys in every way possible, including NRA, IRSRA, GOA. A lot of folks will be filing lawsuits for the state of Illinois because your rights were infringed, and we're not going to sit around and allow that to happen at all. Thank you all for coming out this evening in every way possible. Stay strong, stay involved in every way, and support the politicians that support your rights. It's not it should not be political in any form. Our civil rights is American God-given rights. Educate those that think this should be focused on politics solely. It's your civil rights more than anything. So continue to fight for it, and thank you all for being out here this evening. Yes, sir.
When you listen to the national media, they say, well, there are gun bans like this in 9 other states. Well, that's true, but none of them happened after the New York State Rifle and Pistol Association versus Bruin was handed down. That completely changed the landscape of gun rights in the state of Illinois and every other state in the United States. So we are going to file under this, and right after that, you'll see more action in the courts from the Illinois State Rifle Association. And thank you for coming tonight. We really appreciate it.
One more huge round of applause for these guys and their hard work. Thank you. God bless you guys. Thank you. Thank you. You know what? If you're a member of a law enforcement or a first responder, stand up, please. Let's give these guys a huge round, and ladies, a huge round of applause. This is where our money needs to be going right here. Now, at this time, it gives me great pleasure to introduce the Sheriff of Williamson County, my good friend, your good friend, Sheriff Jeff Diedrich. Thanks, buddy.
Good evening. How's everybody doing tonight? They told me this isn't a gun rally. It is. I can tell. Who believes in the Second Amendment? I want to start off this evening by telling you a couple stories. First off, I decided I wanted to come here tonight, and I wanted to be here and be present because the people of Williamson County elected me. I want you to look at the front row here. Gentlemen, stand up, please. These are the people that volunteered to come with me. You're not paying them to be here. Thank you. There's been a lot of talk in the media about this legislation. I commend our legislators here in Southern Illinois for standing up and fighting. Clearly, we're outnumbered from the north, and they're fighting for us, and we greatly appreciate that. Let's give them a round of applause for having that courage. That is a very, very tough fight when you're outnumbered. And, you know, I often go back to the statistics of crime. We'll use the state of Illinois and the country as a whole. 90% of crime is committed by 3% of the population. So it's a repetitive process. But here's what troubles me with this legislation is we're targeting the wrong people with this legislation. There was a comment from the governor. The governor said that if law enforcement won't stand up and support this new law, that we'd be out of a job. I wanted to introduce you to somebody. State's Attorney Ted Hampson, stand up, please. Stay standing. I got a call the next morning from this gentleman that said, if the governor comes for you, I've got your back. It's not the place of the sheriff. It's not the place of the sheriff to cherry pick the laws that we want to enforce and not. But when we know that a law is unconstitutional, we have no business interjecting ourselves. We're busy fighting crime. We're busy trying to interdict narcotics, stolen property, and making our community safe. We're going to focus on that. And the governor, when he told me that, I had a person in the media ask me, what is your response to that? The response is this: I don't work for the governor. I work for the voters of Williamson County. Thank you.
Appreciate it, man. Thank you. Thank you, Sheriff. So now we're going to get into talking a little bit about our legislative districts and how they changed or didn't change. I guess they all changed during this last redraw of districts in the new 103rd General Assembly. So we're going to start with myself, of course. I represent currently, under the old map, I had 13 counties, all or parts of 13 counties. Now I have all or parts of 14 counties, approximately 4,800 square miles within the 59th district. I represent Alexander, Franklin, Gallatin, Hamilton, Hardin, Jackson, Johnson, Massac, Pope, Pulaski, Saline, Union, White, and Williamson County. Of the partial counties, under the old map, I had all of Franklin County, and I was cut out of half of Franklin, so I basically lost the Benton area, and then I was cut out of half of Hamilton County. But I picked up a lot of Alexander County, all of Carbondale, practically all the way to Senator Bryan's front door, practically. So I picked up all of Jackson all the way to Murfreesboro, and just a little bit of southern Murfreesboro as well. And then I picked up half of White County that I didn't previously have, the eastern half of White County I picked up. Then I picked up the other half of Union County that I had originally. I had half, now I have all of Union County. So I go river to river, 14 counties, approximately 4,800 square miles. So I want to tell you just a little bit about the last map, which was in the Senate. When they redraw maps, we draw terms. House of Representatives, as you know, they run every 2 years. In the Illinois Senate, every 10 years when they redraw districts, we redraw terms. The last 10-year cycle was a 4-2-4. I was elected in 2016 to a 2-year term, and then reelected in 2018 to a 4-year term. And then when we drew this last 10-year cycle, my district
for the next 10-year cycle is a 4-year, 4-year, and 2-year. So I was reelected to a 4-year term. So I'm very thankful for that. And I'll let Senator Bryant talk a little bit about how that differs from her, because you're going to kind of wonder why she's running, going to be running, and I'm not, because I'm on a 4-year term. But that's kind of how the maps look. You can see it up here. It's a large map. We all have large districts, but it's an honor to serve. So at this time, I'm going to turn it over to Senator Bryant to talk a little bit about the 58th district.
So Senator Fowler is right in that he literally does come to my back door. I can see the line from our house. It's a field, and there's a line of trees, and that's the line. So he has part of Murfreesboro, which is where I live, and that's going to be a little bit of a challenge. But I represent the 58th district. I'm going from all or parts of 8 counties to all or parts of 14 counties, 7 of which I've never had before. They include Edwards, Franklin, Hamilton, Jackson, Jefferson, Marion, Monroe, Perry, Randolph, St. Clair, Wabash, Washington, Wayne, and White counties. And so it is also river to river. And my friends over on the Wabash in Ohio, when I said from the Mississippi to the Ohio, reminded me that it's actually the Wabash and the Ohio, but I reminded them that I also represent the Kaskaskia River, so any of you that are here from St. Clair County or Randolph County have that in between. It's been an honor to serve in the 58th District. Senator Fowler is right to say that we draw terms as well. I drew the short straw. So I served in the House for 6 years, starting in 2014. Ran for the first time in the Senate in 2020. I had a 2-year term because Luchtefeld had a 4, Schimpf had a 4, and I got the 2. So I just drew the short straw, and I got a 2-4-4. So I'll be running again in 2 years, and I'm happy to do that and happy to continue to serve you. I will add, before I hand off to Representative Severin here, who's also going to introduce a couple folks that we have here from White County that I think are super important to tonight's topic, that I believe strongly that legislators who voted yes on this assault weapons ban, whatever they want to call it, I call it an anti-Second Amendment bill, I believe violated their oath of office. And I will continue to say that because we took an oath to uphold the Constitution of Illinois and the Constitution of the United States. And further, I believe that those who serve as attorneys, they take an additional oath of office, and I question their oath as attorneys whenever they are willing to vote for something that is so clearly a violation of constitutional rights.
Thank you, Senator. And those of you that know me, I was trying to steal her map while she was reading them to see if she could do her counties from memory. And she is exactly right. We want to introduce a couple people. I'd like them to stand at this time. They're from White County. It is Mike and Belinda Rowe from Illinois Carry. If would you stand, please, and be recognized. Thank you. We appreciate you being here this evening. So I live in Benton, and I've served the last 6 years, 3 terms in the House. And so I just share this real quick. When I was first elected, this real short story where I was sitting on the House floor. Representative Bryant at the time sat to the left of me, and I sat next to her for about 2 minutes, and I looked over to her and I said, I give everybody nicknames. Your nickname is Bulldog Bryant. She looked at me and she said, how'd you know my family nickname? So it's Bulldog Bryant to me. And so we're glad that she's over in the Senate working hard with Senator Fowler. So the 117th district I've had for the last 6 years, now it becomes the 116th district. So I actually, it's the David and David representatives. Representative Freeze, you'll find out about him here in just a minute. He and I both are the representatives for Senator Bryant. And so those 7 new counties that she talked about are basically the counties that I have. So I live in Benton, and I know that we're wearing you out with all these different counties, but just to kind of give you an overview, and you can see the map. So I live in Benton, so I have the northern half of Franklin County, and then we go to the east to Hamilton County. Notice I'm doing this without looking, Senator. Then we go to the east to White County, then we go up above to Wabash County, then we go to Edwards County, then we go to, oh my goodness, I gotta look. White. We go to Wabash, Edwards, then we go to Wayne County. See what happens when you get cocky. And then Jefferson County, and then I have a smidgen of Washington County and of Marion County. So proud to being served the last 6 years and looking forward to working and meeting the new people in these 7 new counties. And it's an awesome opportunity to continue to serve, and I appreciate that opportunity. And so I will pass this off to Representative Freesby. Before I do that, I want to share with you that tomorrow morning I will be filing a bill to repeal HB 5471.
Thank you. And I will be on that bill, by the way. Dave Freeze, I have it was 116th, which was Randolph, Monroe, part of Perry and part of St. Clair. It's now the 115th. It's all of Monroe, all of Randolph, all of Perry. They left me one town in St. Clair County, Lindsborg, I believe, why they did that, I don't know. And then now I picked up Murfreesboro in Jackson County, and that's my district. I'm going to be really brief because I'm actually want to get to the Q&A because I want to be able to address some of your questions. So it is a real privilege serving Southern Illinois. I grew up here, went away, was in the Air Force for a while, came back. There's a reason why my wife and I raised our kids here. It's because of the values of this area. Absolutely love this state, love Southern Illinois. Thank you.
So I represent the 117th district. I used to represent the 118th district. So in about 100 years, I'll be representing the 1st district at this pace. I went from all or parts of 11 counties to all or parts of 10 counties. Essentially, I have the southeastern portion of southernmost Illinois. On the north and west, I go over in Franklin County to Ziegler-Royalton, and you have Yellow Banks Road there, which is a good line of demarcation, I guess, and then moves up into Hamilton County and into White County, just south of Carmi. I go all the way down to my hometown of Metropolis in Massac County, and in between I have Johnson, Pope, Hardin, Saline, the eastern part of Williamson County, and Gallatin County. It's been an honor to serve you in Springfield, and I thank you for the opportunity to do it again for another 2 years.
Gosh, those guys are good. Good evening. I am Dr. Paul Jacobs. People wonder, how in the heck did I get into this business? Many people know me as their eye doctor. I've created practices throughout Southern Illinois. Williamson County, I started practices here 40 years ago. So I have a huge contact with the folks. They told me to hold this up this way. That sounds better. I have a huge contact in Williamson County. The district that we're in right now, because I insisted on it. No, that's not true. I think that this was one of the places that was going to hold this many people. We thank you for coming out to this wonderful event. We also have gone down now all the way Alexander, Pulaski, and Union counties. I have all of those counties together. And that is with Senator Fowler, along with Patrick Windhorse on his side of the furthest southern part of Illinois, which we point out when we're on the State House floor numerous times. We are the furthest part of Illinois. But, many people know me as their eye doctor, as we said, but many more people. My wife and I started a little thing about 30 years ago called Banyaka Vineyard. And probably more people may know us from there than from the eye doctors, but that's also in this district. Praise God. It's just wonderful that my district has all of my old businesses that are in it. So we have a tremendous, probably close to 50-year connection with this district. And that's pretty much how I got into it. I sold all of my interests in the businesses so that we could do this. And I think it's absolutely phenomenal that we get to go up there and fight like we do get to fight. And you can tell that we're fighting and we are winning some things because if you look, the Safety Act is in court. We think that this is going to be in court with the Second Amendment, and many other things are going to be in court. They wouldn't be in court if we weren't fighting, and that's what the Republican Party is doing. And it's for everybody. It's not for just a few people. These things that are unconstitutional are unconstitutional. And I tell you, there's a lot of good stuff that's coming out of these areas. Jackson County and Williamson County, mostly Williamson County, are responsible for $2.5 billion in manufacturing going into this economy. So we do have things going and rolling here. Don't give up. It's a phenomenal thing that we do have. It's called Southern Illinois. And listen, I tell you what, God bless all of you for coming. God bless the United States of America. And God bless Illinois. We can do it.
he's on the thing.
Say something. Say something.
I wasn't on the script for right here, but I'm Representative Charlie Meyer, and I tell people when I'm in Springfield, because I'm from Washington County and I represent Bond, most of Clinton, some of St. Clair, and a big part of Madison, that after I head south, I drive for another 2 hours and I'm still in Illinois. And they can't believe that that's possible since I only live 40 miles east of St. Louis. But you know, it's God's country in southern Illinois. And as we win court cases, think about who you're voting for judges and how important it is that we have the right judges in place that represent our beliefs. So always remember that. A lot of attention isn't paid to judge races, but I was happy to be included tonight. And thanks to all of our policemen here again. We never can thank you enough for all you do for us, no matter what the weather.
Here's Senator Fowler.
Thank you, everyone. We really appreciate it. Hopefully that's a little understanding of how our districts are spread out through southern Illinois. So what I want to talk about now is I'm going to talk just a little bit about some of the legislation that's also in lame duck. And one topic that I would like to discuss is the paid leave bill, Senate Bill 208, and that's providing paid leave for all workers. Sounds like a great idea in theory. However, we have concerns on what this might do to some of our businesses, especially some of our small businesses. This bill applies to all employees and businesses, even part-time workers and small businesses that are just starting up and may not be able to afford this benefit at the start of their startup career. So what this bill does, it would create the Paid Leave for All Workers Act. And it would codify that every employee in the state would be entitled to up to 40 hours, 5 days, assuming an 8-hour workday of paid leave yearly. An employee accumulates 1 hour of paid leave for every 40 hours worked. And the leave can be taken for any reason and is not subject to an employer approval or any supporting documentation, including doctor's notes. So this is a concern that we have. I know in the Senate, I can't talk for the House, but I know in the Senate there was some bipartisan opposition to this bill. Unfortunately, it did pass the Senate, but there were some on the other side of the aisle that voted against this legislation as well. So this is a concern. We feel like this is a hit on small business, and it's concerning, especially when an employee doesn't have to have an excuse or anything. They can just call in and say, I'm not coming to work. So, we're all about, employees having the time off that they deserve and such, but we feel like this legislation is a far stretch. Again, that is Senate Bill 208, so we will be continuing to watch this legislation as it continues to move forward. And I will say in closing, there's a lot I could talk about in Senate Bill 208, but I don't really feel like it's necessary. But you can always reach out to us if you have any questions down the road, of course. Any violation results in a $2,500 fine per offense paid to the Department of Labor. A $2,500 fine if an employee doesn't adhere to this legislation, Senate Bill 208. So moving forward, I'm going to turn it over to my colleague, Senator Bryant, to talk a little bit about the abortion bill.
Okay, so, it's interesting that we're talking tonight in particular about constitutional rights and the violation of the Illinois legislature in that act. So we have House Bill 5471, which we're talking about. We also had the Safety Act. So we know that 5471 is going to be in court. Well, actually was filed today, one suit, and we know from our friends down here from ISRA and NRA that the 5471 will be filed again tomorrow. But these constitutional challenges over and over and over again are a slap in the face to all Illinoisans and all U.S. citizens. A lady sent me a note this past week and said, well, the Constitution is over 200 years old and it's an old document. And I said back to her, there's a process for changing the Constitution if there are enough U.S. citizens that believe that. But what's happening right now are elected officials who are trying to go an end run around the U.S. Constitution, and we can't have it. So this abortion bill, House Bill 4664, there's a slide up here that will tell you some of the things that are about it, and I added a couple more things that are not on the slide, but it does expand abortion. So understand, no matter where you are sitting in here today, if you consider yourself pro-life or pro-choice, just know this: Illinois has the most expansive abortion laws in all of the United States, and I would argue probably in the world. Right now, you can get an abortion anytime you want for any reason. Some of them are funded by taxpayer money, and there's a prohibition to even notify parents when an underage child is getting an abortion. That's how expansive it is. I go to church in Carbondale, and I will tell you there are already 2 active abortion clinics in Carbondale, with a 3rd one probably opening, and talk that there'll be 2 additional ones. So it affects all of us. So what does this bill say? How does it expand? Non-physicians can now do abortions. That means nurse practitioners, advanced practice nurses, physician's assistants, and in some cases, midwives. So think about that. Non-doctors, and this is supposed to be about women's reproductive health. It requires the Department of Public Health to collaborate with nonprofit organizations to administer grants to provide abortion training that would allow nurses and birthing centers to provide abortions. It also allows for state nurses, nurse practitioners, and physicians' assistants to perform abortions in Illinois, even if the practice is barred in their home state. So they can come here from another state. We've had difficulty getting something called the Nurse Compact law that would allow nurses to come from other states to help us here because we have a nurse shortage. But this would allow abortion nurses to come to Illinois and abortion doctors to come to Illinois. Denies insurance companies the right to reject paying for abortion services if they're out of network. And then does not allow non-doctors to be sued for botched abortion services. So non-physicians can do them, and they cannot be sued if they botch them. And then 2 other things that I added to this, because one of them I think is what's going to get us into court. One of them is expediting licenses for abortionists. So if they're coming to Illinois, their licenses will be expedited. We could not get an answer for what that means. Does that mean that doctors who are heart surgeons who are trying to come here are going to be pushed aside because they're expediting the licenses for abortionists coming to Illinois? It also means those who are graduating from our own medical schools will be pushed back while they expedite the licenses of abortionists who are trying to come here. And then most egregiously, it prohibits extradition of doctors who have violated the law in their own state and then come to Illinois to perform those abortions. So this would say that we will not extradite a doctor back to the state where they're already a lawbreaker, which violates the U.S. Constitution and federal law. So we are pretty sure that this is going to end up in court as well. Once again, violating the Constitution of the United States, because that's the people who are running the show right now. Let me turn this over now to Representative Charlie Meyer, who's going to talk to you a little bit about solar and wind bill that came through just in the last days.
Thank you, Terry. Why we want to talk about solar for a couple minutes, because it does affect you, the bill that was passed, 4412, if you're a property owner in the state of Illinois. I'm not saying I'm for solar. I'm not saying I'm against solar and wind. What I am saying, I'm tired of taxpayers having to pay for our electric rates going up. We worked 4 years ago on a bill allowing wind and solar, and the counties, our counties, the boards that we elect to have the right to determine our zoning. Took us 2 years. We worked on that bill to get it done. And about 4 years ago, we got it done. Democrats, Republicans, landowners, wind and solar. They threw that all out the window the other night. Everything in Springfield that's bad happens after dark. Just so we get used to it. In this bill, like I say, our counties now have to mirror the state regulations. Our zoning does not protect. A lot of counties put in their zoning when they did them a long time ago to protect our farmland. It does not protect it. Anything industrial and anything farm ground can have solar on it no matter what. Now, if you wonder how much solar and wind's coming in, just for them closing down Prairie State as they keep trying, it will take 122,000 acres of farmland out of production. So that will take the food out of more than 60,000 people's mouths. Now multiply that by all the power plants in the state of Illinois they want to close. In here, for to whet your appetite, they put $200 million for relief for Ameren customers. They didn't mention co-ops at all. But that's only if the money is allocated and there. How many broken promises have we had from Springfield for all of our different projects in Southern Illinois? The money has never come. We'll never see that $200 million. It wasn't put in any of the budget bills that were moved this past week. What rights do you now have as a property owner next to a wind farm? Basically none. They can't build it within 1.5 times its height to your property line. The roads will have to be bigger, so if you own farmland there and they're bringing in a wind farm, which right now in Washington County, there is one that stretches from the east side to the west side being proposed, they have to make the roads larger. Well, if you're a property owner in real estate, you're paying the taxes on that road, yet you're going to lose more of your farmland to that road. It gives them more power than the pollution board over their rulings. The new federal bill that Biden signed back into effect, WOTUS over waters, it overrides that over federal regulation. It prohibits higher standards for decommissioning. That's a major problem. When these farms and these windmills are done and it comes down, our counties can't prove that what the bonding is because they leave a clause in there talking about the recycling value of all this material. Well, we know there's none in a wind farm. Those things just pile up. But what I'm here to tell you tonight is, and we can put on programs, all of us can in the future, do not sign any contract with a wind and solar until you hire a lawyer. I don't care how smart you think you are. I don't care how much money they're offering you. You need to find a lawyer that can put in and write in that is bonded, that money has to be put away so they can return your land the way it was when they came in. Hire a lawyer, protect yourselves, and listen to what they say. Thank you. I'm going to turn it over to Senator Fowler again.
Thank you, Representative Meyer. Now what we'd like to do is talk a little bit about the legislative session preview. So, yeah, they got it up there. So, as you know, the governor and the constitutional officers were sworn in on January the 10th of this year, of course. And then the legislators, the senators and representatives were sworn in on January the 11th. Now, coming up on February the 15th, the governor will be delivering the budget address as well as the State of the State address. So we're looking forward to seeing that for sure. And then on February the 10th will be the deadline to file Senate bills. February 17th, deadline to file House bills. So we'll all be working hard with our staff. And there's something I also I know we have a lot of staff here from Springfield and in our districts here in Southern Illinois. And I got to tell you, we have some of the most incredible staff in the state of Illinois that work incredibly hard. Yeah, let's give them all a round of applause. I know they're around. They helped put this together today. They take the time to come down and drive down from all over the state, especially around from Springfield. And you know, we have thousands of bills that come to our table. So if it weren't for the staff that has an opportunity to really review these, so we can go sit down and have question and answer with them. So we're very thankful for them, and they don't get enough recognition, I'm telling you. So we're so fortunate to have incredible staff. And then the May the 11th will be the House Bill's third reading deadline. May 12th will be the deadline for the House. And then we are scheduled to adjourn early again this year. Normally we wouldn't adjourn till the last of May, first couple of days of June, when we supposedly vote on a budget. But this year they're adjourning us early again. Last year we adjourned, I believe it was on April the 9th. April the 9th last year. We are scheduled to adjourn session May the 19th. May the 19th, subject to change, of course, subject to change. So I just wanted to give you a little brief update of what this legislative session is going to look like. So at this time, I think, and one thing else I wanted to mention, I don't know if I mentioned this earlier when I first came up to the podium about the sex ed bill. I'm not sure I mentioned this, but one reason why the sex ed bill came back up to the House and the Senate, came back up for discussion to be filed again, was because, as I mentioned, under Senate Bill 818, a school district could have the option of opting out of teaching the curriculum. Now, if you opted out, that means you could not teach any form of sex education. And then, as I mentioned, even if a school opted in, parents could opt their child out. Well, the reason why new legislation was filed was because 70%, and if I'm being redundant, I apologize, but this is really important, 70% of all superintendents statewide opted out of teaching this legislation. And that's a great thing, right? That's a great thing. So then what happened? Okay, let's come back and let's file House Bill 5188 to require everyone to mandate the schools to teach the sex education curriculum. Well, that's when it did not come, because they were upset because 70% opted out. So that's the reason why it did not come up to the House and the Senate, was because they didn't have the votes, and it died in lame duck. It may come back up again under the 103rd General Assembly, but we'll be watching that. That's why, ladies and gentlemen, again, I can't stress enough, we can't stress enough how important it is to file your witness slips, because they are heard, they are read into the record, and they are heard, and it's an opportunity for you to voice your opinion for legislation that's important to you and the communities that you live in. So now I think, where's Matt? Where'd Matt go? I think we're ready to roll into some Q&A time. Man, we're right on schedule. This is awesome. He's always behind the curtain. So we're going to bring Matt up. Matt was really spearheaded putting this on together. Let's give Matt Eddy a huge round of applause. Thank you.
Thank you all. We've got several questions that have been submitted by the audience, and we're going to give the legislators. And at this time, if the State Rifle Association folks and NRA folks would like to come to be available to help us with any of these as well, we'd appreciate that. First, I think an easy one that we can cover, Ellie and Representative Severin, the first one that we had was, where can I go to track bills, see how legislators voted, and read what is in the bills that are introduced?
Thank you, Matt. I just want to say this before we go any further. You notice that I haven't gotten to talk much. They know that when Severin gets a microphone, they back off. So, so this is a great question, and I want to share this with you. This is really important. Every one of you, if you want to follow along bills, you go to ilga.gov, okay? And you can find out what bills have been passed, what bills are in committee, that's where you do your witness slips. And it's very important. Everybody here, you have a cell phone. You can do it on your cell phone, your computer. I would implore you to, not only yourself, but also your friends, those that you work with, your family members, follow along. You can find out what our district is, bills that we voted on, bills that we've passed, committees that we serve on. It's a great tool. You can literally watch committees live on this website. You can watch session live. And I want to say this to you also. I was going to say it later, but I'll say it right now since I got the mic. That we would love for you to come to Springfield when we're in session. If you go to ilga.gov, you can go and find out when we're in session. Now, the Senate right now, they're renovating the building, so you cannot go to session live in the Senate. But in the House, in the third floor, the gallery, we would love for you to come and see actually how we operate on the House floor. But ilga.gov, memorize. We call it ILGA. That's where you can find out all these different bills. That's where you file the witness slips, all this information. It is a great tool, and it's not a secret. We want everyone in the state of Illinois to know about ILGA. Go to that. So how about we say this together? ilga.gov. It was almost a cheer, Mayor, almost. But so I just want to share that with you.
So I want to add something to that. When you go to that site and you're looking at bills, something that Senator Fowler explained tonight is how these bills get gutted and replaced. So as you're reading through those bills, please go all the way down to the very last amendment, because often you will see something where they say something like everything before this is replaced except the enacting clause, right? Anytime you see that, none of it ahead of that counts. So often you'll see a bill number and then a title, and the bill has absolutely nothing to do with what the title is. So please make sure that you scroll all the way down and look at the final amendment to see if the amendment is something that's being added to the bill or if it's actually replacing the entire bill, which is what we saw actually multiple times with the gun bill.
It's working. Yeah, one quick thing. If it says session's going to start at noon, don't expect it to start at noon. I'm going to tell you that right now. It is one of the most frustrating things about Springfield that just drives me crazy. As a business owner, if I tell somebody I'm going to be there at noon, I'm there quarter till at a minimum. The people that run the offices right now or the show in Springfield, they've got no respect for our time, and they won't have any respect for your time. So just be prepared to sit around and twiddle your thumbs.
Okay, thank you. We're going to get to some questions on our first topic. The first one I may have an answer for, and then Representative Severin, if you want to jump in. There have been many questions about what guns are banned under the firearms ban law. And one of the things that we were handed today is a frequently asked question sheet that has a listing of those weapons. If you do not have that sheet of paper, if you did not get one when you came in, the Illinois Senate Republicans homepage has a listing of these weapons, and it's at ilsenatgop.org. So for those folks that are looking for a list of the weapons, that's one place you can get it. And I would assume Representative Severin will have me on the task of putting that on the House of Representatives website as well, starting later on today. Go ahead.
Absolutely. So you can catch it at, one more time, Matt, hit it.
That is ilsenatgop.org, and then it's /banned-assault-weapons.
So you can also find it at finish it for me, .gov. Good job. You can find it at ilga.gov, HB 5471. You can find it. There's 172 guns that have been that are on that list. So you can go there and find that. And you will find out also, as Representative Freese was talking about, how frustrating it is in Springfield as far as not starting on time, but also all the acronyms that they use, that we use, and all these different places to find things. But I want to make it real easy. Go to ilga.gov, HB 5471, bingo, there it is. You can find it. Senator?
I'd also like to add to that as far as legislators, what you can do as well on ilga.gov is you can go to Senate, you can click on Senate, or you can click on House of Representatives, and you'll find our name, our member's name, Dale Fowler, Terry Bryant. You can click on that, and then you can click on bills, and you can see all the bills that we have filed, or sponsored, co-sponsored, chief code sponsored. So you can actually track the bills that we file, such as the repeal of the FOIA that we'll be refiling again, by the way. So you can track our legislation. You can track how it goes. You can see where it's at, if it's in assignments, if it's gone to the floor, if it's been voted on, if it's been passed, and if it's been signed. And also you can click on the committees. It'll show you all the committees that we serve on as well. Yeah, go ahead, Richard.
One of the things I wanted to mention about the list of firearms, that there's also a list of features. So if you add an accoutrement to that firearm, it could be legal 1 minute, and you add a accoutrement onto it the next night, like a muzzle brake or something like that, and it could be an illegal firearm, an assault weapon. So you have to really be careful with what you do and reading through all the parts to this thing. So I wouldn't do anything right now. I wouldn't worry about it right now. I would say there's a lot of court cases, so I wouldn't do anything for the moment.
Okay, our next question on this topic comes from Ralph from Goreville. He asks, can I legally will or give an assault weapon to another FOID card holder? Representative Windhorst?
Sure. You can pass what is termed an assault weapon in this bill three ways. One is to an heir through an estate. Second way is transfer it out of state. And then the third way is to transfer it to an FFL. Those are the three ways provided for in the law. That's correct. After it's transferred, well, you'd have to register it first, and then after it's transferred, that registration would have to continue, yes.
Our next question comes from Ed from Grantsburg. He asks, is it true that there is no provision in the gun law that funds its enforcement?
Well, it's true there is no funding in this bill. That is correct. Right now, the state police will be using whatever resources it has to implement the registration portion, and then whatever enforcement exists within the state police would come from its current budget. Now, we are in a session that just started, as we've said. There will be a budget passed sometime probably in May, and at that point we may see from the state police an additional request for funding, but to my knowledge that has not come yet.
Go ahead, Representative.
I got the microphone again. Can I jump back in about ILGA? So we just started the 103rd General Assembly. So if you go and you find to the 103rd General Assembly, well, there's nothing there because we've just started. So you would need to go to the previous session, which was the 102nd. And of course, it's every 2 years. So you can go back to the 101st, and I'll try to shut up, but I'll say this also. You can literally go back and follow years ago. If you want to see something that happened 10 years ago, 15 years ago, 20 years ago, you can go back to those assemblies. So I just wanted to share with you that the most recent was the 102nd. So that's where you want to see all these things that we talked about tonight in the lame duck session. They will not be in the 103rd. They're in the 102nd. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
So I also want to add, I had an interview with a Chicago TV station where they asked me, was I going to register my firearms? And I want to echo something that Richard said just a few minutes ago. My answer to them was, I have over 300 days to make that, or I have 300 days to make that decision, right? So I want to echo Richard saying, there's a lot that's going to happen over the next little bit. So we want to give you the law as it is written tonight, but also understand that there are a lot of moving parts going on. The other thing I want to say is I had a conversation with an individual who was not an official spokesman for the Illinois State Police, but any of you that were able to listen in on the debate on the gun bill, I took took them to task on the fact that, this is going to be registered with the state police, and there's supposed to be a designation on your FOID card that, that you have registered these firearms. Number one, many of us sitting up here have had constituents who waited a year to 18 months to get their FOID card or their concealed carry card, and some who are still waiting, right? Secondly, just a year and a half ago, the FOID database was hacked. And then thirdly, I would say, you may remember that we had to go to court with Lisa Madigan when they tried to make all of our information on FOID cards public, and had to actually go to court so that that was not FOIable. So again, there's a lot of moving parts. And also understand that not even the state police know how they're going to do this because there isn't any funding. And then again, how do you put this on a FOID card when we can't even get them on time now?
Okay, our final question on this topic is for any of the representatives or senators. This comes from Austin from Marion. What does the Second Amendment mean to you?
Second Amendment says, shall not be infringed. I don't know how else to say it, right? I'm not an attorney. There are a couple sitting up here. The words shall, may, those are all words that have meaning. And in the law, there are we constantly come in contact and in conflict with words that have meaning. Shall not be infringed. That's what it means to me.
Freedom, right, freedom. It's the Constitution. It's the Constitution, and it's the Second Amendment, and we must abide. And you'll see the results from that.
I agree 1,000%. It's freedom. It's the Constitution. It's America. It's what's in my heart. It's why we're here. It's why we're standing. It's what makes us great. Is that Second Amendment? And so we've got to make sure that we understand it, and that we stand for it once we understand it.
Amen. These guys have said it the best. I'm an avid gun supporter. I have guns myself. I do hunting, do some target practice. My wife knows how to shoot. I taught my kids how to shoot. That's why I called that guy out. Freedom shirt. I tell you, that's why we're here. That's what this is about. That's how we protect our freedoms.
To me, it's the freedom that protects our other freedoms. We are a free people, and to have those freedoms, we must have the Second Amendment. And I believe that's why the framers put it in the Constitution and why it's been recognized for nearly 250 years and will continue to be recognized long after today.
The Second Amendment, is this working? Is it working? The Second Amendment also is there, probably most importantly, for the reason that the United States of America was ever created, and that was because we had cruddy government in Europe. We are developing cruddy government in Illinois, and we need to straighten it out. Besides that, I just want to add one thing, because I think you said this was the last one on this topic. I wanted to add one thing. Everybody's asking me, okay, the bill has been signed, it's going to court, it's doing this and that. What can we do now? Get to ilga.gov, look up all the people that voted for the bill. You're talking to the choir here. You need to talk to those people, send them messages, emails, load them up. They're voted for it. We voted against it, and we will continue to vote against it. Thank you, guys.
There, it is our freedom. It's our God-given right because of our forefathers protected our country with it. They wrote it in the Constitution. For me, I sit out there and I work with my great nieces and nephews now. Teach them how to shoot a gun. Teach them how to hold a gun. You know, youth need to learn how to respect a gun. That's our rights as a family to show our future generations how to do it. I have a lot of the guns that belong to my family, going back to even great aunts and uncles. And, you know, I want those children to know how to use that gun, use it safely. We want our kids down here in Southern Illinois to go to shooting competitions, to get their scholarships. We have them going across the country on scholarships because of their skills in trap shooting. I asked in this bill, when at first you remember, it was going up to take to 21 to be able to have a FOID card. These students wouldn't even be able to take their guns along for trap shoots. They would have to take a parent with them across the country to move these guns. So it's our rights. We're glad to see you here tonight, helping us fight for our rights, and just keep the pressure on them. I liked what Representative Jacobs said. Keep the pressure on our colleagues that want this bill. Thank you.
Okay, with some final words on this topic, we have Richard Pearson here again to explain some items about filing witness slips and some more information.
Yes, filing witness slips is a process, and you kind of have to get used to it. So if you go to the ISRA website, isra.org, down in there you'll find a tutorial on how to file witness slips and set up an account with the ILGA. So you can do that, and that will make it a lot easier. You have to do it in advance. Right now, there's not much going on. I get calls, so why can't I file a witness slip? Well, there's no hearings yet, but there will be in a couple weeks, they'll be starting. So, but I would go to that tutorial and get that done first. The other thing is that we think that a lot of the programs, because of the semi-automatic shotguns, semi-automatic rifles, a lot of the youth programs are going to be heavily affected by this bill. So we are very worried about that, and that will be part of the lawsuit also.
For final word, I just want to thank you all for coming out, honestly. This is where it counts with you all. We are up here because of you. You voted these folks in office to represent your values, your morals in every form. We need you to get more involved in every way possible. Like he said, keep the pressure on your elected officials. Contact the folks that voted for this. Let your friends know who support those folks that voted for this. What would it do to their civil rights in every form? An educated populace is what is needed. We have all sorts of technology these days, and honestly, the IQ of Americans have sunk. Seriously, it really has. We need to continue educating folks today about how these sort of policies affect our daily lives. And once again, I just want to just thank you all for coming out here this evening. If there's anything we can do for you, please let us know. nraila.org. What do you think? We don't.
Sir, we have a process for tonight, and we thank you for that. We are fully in support of the officers that are here, and they have no intention of coming to your house to take your AR. We agree. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you all. We have a couple more questions to get to. There was legislation that passed during the previous General Assembly, now that we're in the 103rd, and many of you may know it as the Safety Act. And there's been several trailer bills that have addressed the Safety Act, as well as court action that's happened. And one of the members of the General Assembly that was active in questioning the sponsors of that legislation and following up in the trailer bill attempts was Representative Windhorst. And I'd like to ask this question comes from John of Marion, and he says, what changes have been made to the Safety Act? Will the Supreme Court allow the Safety Act to go into effect?
Thank you. In the veto session at the end of last year, there were some changes to the Safety Act, mainly relating to the elimination of cash bail. If those of you who know the Safety Act know that part of that law eliminates cash bail. So if that law goes into effect, a person who's arrested will either be released from jail or held in jail pending their trial. The problem with that system is it's not worked in other states. It's been tried, and it just is not a good system. But one of the in particular problems in Illinois was what's called the detention net was very narrow. So one of the things that was done at the end of the veto session was to expand that detention net to add a number of offenses to it for which a person could be held pending trial. It still did not include all offenses. In fact, some very serious offenses weren't included. One of the other things that was corrected in the bill was, you may have heard that people who are on your property who are trespassing can't be arrested and removed. The trailer bill made it clear that those individuals can be arrested and removed. But the most important thing I think that we need to know today is that was challenged in court by state's attorneys, and I think we have the state's attorneys here, 4 of them I believe I've seen here that challenged that legislation in court, and a court in Kankakee County said the elimination of cash bail is unconstitutional and put a stay, or the Supreme Court put a stay on the implementation of the bill pending their review. So what we expect to happen is there'll be briefs filed, there'll be an argument in March, and then sometime in the late spring or summer, we'll get a ruling from the Illinois Supreme Court on whether cash bail is constitutional under our state constitution.
Thank you. The next question comes for Senator Fowler. Mark from Marion, how are you working across the aisle to accomplish things for your district?
Great question. Thank you for that question. When I first became a member of the General Assembly, I think we all agree that one of the most important things that we can all do in business or being a member of the General Assembly or whatever it may be is to develop relationships, especially when we're members of the super minority. And any bill that we propose to the General Assembly doesn't have to be called or voted on or approved. So one of the things I did, and I know I can speak for my colleagues here up at the table, was I instantly started going to everyone on the other side of the aisle, just introducing myself. We'd go out to dinner at night. We would do whatever it took to be able to develop those relationships. And I feel like it's been successful. I think you're seeing tremendous growth in business in Southern Illinois. I think you're seeing things, as an example, the $150 million that was designated for the entire state of Illinois to go to ports. Over 1/3 of those funds is coming to Southern Illinois. We was able to negotiate edge credits with the opposite side of the aisle for the Reader Link, bringing the Reader's Link into Marion, and a lot of other world-class resort that was able to be able to speak on the floor to ensure that we had the license to bring this world-class resort that's going to be opening up in a few months, that's going to create a lot of jobs to Southern Illinois. So that's one thing that we'll all continue to do. And I know one thing that you're going to see up here is we are members that, most of us have had our careers. We're here to serve you. We've been guided to serve here. The good Lord sent us to serve you, and it's imperative that we have relationships. It's because if we're going to pass legislation or we're going to bring business and commerce, anything to Southern Illinois, we have to have the support of the other side of the aisle. There's no question about that. So I cherish the representatives on the other side of the aisle and the friendships that I have with them, and I know other members here do as well.
So I'm going to play devil's advocate just a little bit, because Senator Fowler is right that we are in a super minority, and we do have to work with the other side of the aisle. But to the gentleman's point, who talked about the frustration of having bills called at midnight, at 2, 3 o'clock in the morning, sometimes 4 o'clock in the morning. It's not something that we can control, not an excuse, just an explanation. What we can do for the other side of the aisle, because this is one of the things I believe about them, they're in a super duper majority. in both the House and the Senate. And because of that, they really don't have to work with anyone, and they don't have to know their bills. Not just do they not have to know their own bills, they certainly don't know the bills of other people. And so often our job in working with the other side of the aisle is to explain to them what's in their own bills. Because they don't know. They truly do not know. And often we have to challenge them and call them to task for, let's say, last year when they called to fix the Floyd Act in the Senate at 3 o'clock in the morning. And I was trying to ask questions about it to bring a lot of the stuff. It was my first year. It was 2 years ago. It was my first year in the Senate. And I said, I was asking my questions. I had about 10 of them on a sheet of paper. And the person in the well said, I'm going to let you ask one more question. And I said to the colleague that was in the well, no, I have 10 questions to ask. And they said, well, I'm not going to let you ask another question. I'm going to let you ask one more question, and that's all. And then you have to sit down. And when I demanded to ask those questions, he said he would put us on a 5-minute timer. So we were only allowed 5 minutes. It happened to us again this year. When you have very controversial bills, what ends up happening is the other side will either say you can only ask X number of questions, or they put us on a timer. And so sometimes the way we work across the aisle isn't necessarily that it looks like we're all getting along. Sometimes it's that we are educating them about their own bill so that you see what we saw with the sex education bill, where the other side would not vote against their colleague in committee. So what they said was, well, we'll vote to get it out of committee, but when it gets to the floor, I won't vote for it. That's because of the questions that the Republican side of the aisle asked on that issue. And then that person knew that they could not bring that bill to the floor because they didn't have enough votes. So sometimes we're working to try to get along because we have to get money for these districts, and we're not in control. But other times we work with the other side of the aisle to just educate them about their own legislation.
So, Ellie, could you pull up the contact information? Representative Severin was going to handle this, and then Senator Fowler, you're up after him.
Okay, thank you, Matt. Sit up? Yeah, you want to go up to the, sure.
So again, I want to thank you for coming out this evening, and Senator Fowler is going to finish out, but I want to share with you, we educated you about the ILGA.gov, but also this is, if you want to contact us specifically, this is our information. So each one of us have a website. We have a Facebook page. Of course, we have offices in our district. We have an office in Springfield, and we want to make sure that everybody in this room knows several things when you leave here. One is that we're accessible, that we care, that we care about you. We really want to hear what you have to say, not just so we can say, well, we had a town hall meeting, but we want to make sure that you know that we're accessible, we're listening, doing everything we can to inform you, but then also to be active on different issues. And so these are our Facebook pages, websites, addresses, phone numbers, and you'll notice also that several of us have new offices. So the office that I had in Marion, I don't have it anymore. Representative Jacobs is now on 600 Halfway Road. And so my office now is in Benton, and I have one in Mount Vernon. And so that's just one little piece. So we want to inform you about that. And the other thing is, we want you to call us. We want you to reach out to us, call us, email us, text us. And the other thing is, I wasn't kidding when I said to you about we want you to come to Springfield. Senator Bryant, I appreciate what she shared about we want to get information to you, not just at this town hall meeting, but to follow on that ILGA.gov. We want you to come to Springfield and sit on the House floor and see how things go. Watch what's going on in committee so you understand the process, become more active. I appreciate you being here this evening because you care about several things, and we appreciate that very much. And I want to say this, that we talk about God, everybody on this table, or this table here on the platform, we're each of faith. And I want to tell you how important it is to go out to eat. Because I met a guy that his name is Jake Heinman. He's the Student Air Rifle Program Director of the whole United States. And you know how I met him? I met him by accident at a restaurant, and I had my state rep shirt on, and he sat across from me. He jumped on his phone, and he pulled it up. He said, "Oh, I see you're a Republican." "Yes, sir." He said, "I see you're the chairman of the Jude Crim Committee." "Yes, sir." We went on, and I said, "So tell me about yourself." And so that's how I found out about him. And he wants to bring the Student Air Rifle Association to the state of Illinois, all just by eating out. So those of you that feel bad about eating out, keep doing it. And so, Senator Fowler, I'll turn it back over to you, and then you know what I'm going to do, Mayor.
Yeah, I'm not closing. He's going to close because get ready, Mayor. It's coming. All right. Again, thank you so much for taking the time to be with us this evening. As Representative Severin said, here's our contact information. Just Google our name if you don't have that. We're here to serve you. And, we're so fortunate to live in some of the most gorgeous country in the entire Midwest. Just in my district alone, the 59th district, I have 20 Illinois Department of Natural Resource state parks. I have the incredible Shawnee National Forest. We have the confluence of the mighty Mississippi and Ohio. We have lakes. But you know what? More than anything, we have love for each other. When the chips are down, we're here for each other to help each other out. That's what it's all about. So I just ask, before I turn it over to Representative Severin to close, I just ask to pray. Pray for all of us. We're here to serve you. If you ever have any questions about any legislation, call us. We'll explain it. We'll meet with you. We travel all over. We travel thousands of miles, and we will do everything we can to get the answers for you. So do not hesitate to call us if you need us to come to your community, whatever it takes. That's what we're here to do. That's what we've been sent to do. So I'm going to send it over to Representative Severin to close.
Quick. Okay, thank you very much. I appreciate you sharing that. Thank you. And I did introduce Valinda Rowe. She's a woman. She's a woman with a lot of fire and passion, and she is the spokesperson for Illinois Carry. And so we had her stand up, and I appreciate what you shared. And this was for all of Southern Illinois. And so I was going to ask a question, and then we're going to do something, and we're out of here. Do you want to do this? Do you appreciate this, and do you want to do this again?
Give me a U.
You!
Give me a U.
You!
Give me an S.
S!
Give me an A.
A!
What's it spelled?
USA!
I can't hear you.
USA!
What's the greatest country on the face of the earth? And I can't hear you guys. Come on.
USA!
One more time.
USA!